Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back to the podcast. So, today's episode, we wanted to talk all about the luteal phase. Dev and I are basically, well, I'm currently almost in the luteal phase, and Dev is in the thick of it, I
In
think,
the very thick of it
at the moment. So, I feel like it's perfect timing. We're both kind of in sync right now, and we're both feeling all the feelings that come when you are in your luteal phase. And I think it's worth talking about because I think only maybe in the last year, I would say, have I actually started to understand my menstrual cycle. And we've definitely touched on it in other episodes, but I think it's kind of been a game changer actually understanding, okay, different parts of the month I need to operate differently, and my body is just going through different things. And I think, yeah, when you initially just think about your period, that's just one part of your cycle and one part of the month. I never considered all the others. So that's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about kind of how we deal with the luteal phase, maybe our symptoms and like what we go through during that time, just to see if you guys relate. Like maybe you can kind of get some tips on how to manage it for yourself if you are the type of girl that does get quite affected by the symptoms during that time. So Dev, considering you are fully in the trenches right now, why don't we start with you? So how does your luteal phase typically look or feel, should I say? And how has your experience been kind of acknowledging it and, you know, trying to kind of make yourself be okay in that time?
I think for me, I realized that I have to, like you said, it's not just about the week that you're actually bleeding. It's about acknowledging everything that surrounds it. I think for me, it was acknowledging that for a woman, you're on like a monthly cycle compared to like a man being on a 24-hour cycle. And it's so obvious, like periods are monthly. That means the entire cycle is monthly. And I didn't really start to acknowledge or work with my body probably up until about a year and a half ago, which is when I also started taking my like fitness and physical health and my walking habits and everything more seriously, because I realized like I was just picking up on patterns. Like I realized that there were some workouts in the gym that I was struggling through, yet 2-3 weeks ago, the exact same workout, I was like smashing my weights, like ready for the next set, wasn't tired after it. Whereas like another part of the month, I would be absolutely like yonked when I got up. And then when I go to the gym, I haven't even finished my warm up and I'm sweating. And before everything, I have that mindset of like, I just cannot be bothered. And that's the overwhelming feeling I have in my luteal phase. And as someone who is very deep, dark in the trenches of my luteal phase right now, as we're speaking, I'm experiencing a new symptom, which is anger, but like,
is that new
for no reason? Yeah, like irrational anger. Like I've never felt it before. I woke up this morning frustrated. Like I've never done that before. Or at least I've never like consciously recognized that I'm waking up angry. Like I've always had a reason to be angry, but literally this morning I was like like kicking my slippers, and I was like,
who is this person?
Why? And my partner was like, if you can be in a bad mood for no reason, you can be in a good mood for no. I was like, shut up.
No, that's not what you want to hear.
Exactly. It was like that type of anger that I was just like, I don't want to hear it right now. But I also, because I know like my period is literally like it is in the horizon, I can see it coming. It's like balancing out my rational anger right now, which is weird because the awareness around it and like how I am in my different phases has helped me in itself cope with the different phases as well. Because before I think I was just bouncing around being like frustrated in the gym and then being tired all day and being like, what? I used to think there was something wrong with me. Like I used to think like, why can I not just have a simple 4-week consecutive, consistent like time of like smashing my workouts and feeling good after them? Why do I always feel tired? Why do I always feel drained? I used to think it was me like sabotaging my own like fitness habits and stuff, and it's only just taking a step back, recognizing that actually no, it's my hormones, it's actual biology, it's my actual body trying to go through these different things to create these goddamn eggs. That's actually got me into this huff. Like, it's not a me problem, it's like a mother nature problem. But what about you? Because I know you seem shocked that I'm angry.
Yeah,
today.
only because I'm shocked because you said it's a new symptom for you, because that is probably the symptom strongest for me. Like, that is the one thing, like, I'm always raging. So I was so shocked that that's like the only thing that you'd only recently experienced, because I thought that was quite universal. But at the same time, so I only recently got diagnosed with PMDD, and for many years I'd suffered with it not realizing, and that's essentially where your PMS like symptoms are just like on another level, like they're just super intense compared to what you normally should feel.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through such a long period of time having this cycle of being so angry, so depressed, so like every emotion was just on another level, not really understanding that it was even linked to my cycle. First of all, like, I didn't even know that that was the reason for it. And then you also get the tiredness and stuff, so then you start feeling really lazy and like miserable about yourself because you're not able to actually muster the energy to do the stuff you normally do. But when you don't realize that it's actually a physical difference in your body that's causing that, you just start to beat yourself up about it. And that's something I did for a long time. I was like, why am I suddenly so lazy and so demotivated and literally don't want to get up? And I just felt so miserable anyway because my hormones were out of sync. So it was just everything piling on top of each other, and it was so unbearable when I didn't understand it. And then when I finally started to understand, no, there is a whole period of time, like, because the thing is, we've always heard about PMS, we've always known that that's a thing, like, even right from the beginning, but because it was never taken seriously, it was almost one of those things that, oh, girls get cranky like a couple of days before, or, you know, like, it's just this really trivial thing.
Yeah.
But actually, like, because it wasn't taken seriously, I never paid attention enough to know that, no, this is actually causing a lot of problems in my body and my mental health. Like, I never took it to that level because I just saw it as this trivial, like, oh, I have some cravings and I get a bit grumpy. Like, I thought those are the symptoms you get. So if I got anything beyond that, then there's an actual inherent problem with me. That's not part of like just the cycle and your luteal phase and things. And I think it was probably when I started seeing videos pop up on TikTok about the luteal phase and just understanding the rest of the menstrual cycle, not just when you're on your period. Because also what I'd focus on for so many years is having painful periods, because my periods were so painful that that's also something that took so much of my focus, because I was always trying to kind of fix that or figure out what's the problem with me, because I noticed that a lot of girls around me, especially when I was at uni, nobody suffered with the pain as much as I did. So I was like, okay, well, this is the problem. And I never really got a chance to think about the mental side of things and like how my body was reacting during that time. So when I then did eventually start figuring that out, do you know what? I feel like as soon as I became a bit more self-aware, or was just aware in general that existed, I feel like that immediately like switched something in me.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what it is about understanding or just knowing the reasoning for something. It helps so much just to like, you know, get your mind to realize like, actually this is something that I can manage and can, like, I'm somewhat in control of, or even if I'm not in control of it, it's okay. And I feel like the moment that I realized, okay, I have PMDD, I have a luteal phase to go through, like, it's natural, it's part of being a woman, it's normal. And yeah, my symptoms might not be at a normal level, but at some degree, it is something that I have to go through regardless. So when I started to realize that, that's when I started to then, okay, not beat myself up about the fact that I was starting to get really fatigued, and, you know, that lazy feeling was actually just my body being drained during that time because it was going through a lot. Then I stopped pushing myself so much to do the normal things that I was usually quite energetic and, you know, had the energy to do. I stopped pushing myself. So then I wasn't as like mentally drained as well, and like basically battling with myself. Like that all stopped once I understood it, because then I started to just work with my body. I was in the mindset where I was thinking, okay, I'm in that phase right now, so if I don't feel like doing that, this like my body needs the rest, and my body will now take it. Like I was taking more control over working with the body instead of against it, which is what I didn't understand, so I never did before. So I feel like, I guess that's why it helps so much, understanding your body and what you're going through from a deeper level, rather than just thinking, oh, it's just this trivial thing that women go through every month, and it just comes and goes, and you just get on with it. Well, no, like I feel like it's so important to actually understand your body, understand your triggers as well. So like you were talking about, like you only really just figured out, or you'd only just started to get the anger symptoms, but there were other symptoms that you identified as being part of your luteal phase. So when you identify those and understand what they are, you can then take steps to actually think about, okay, so now I know this happens during this time. What am I going to do to change my daily habits, change my work schedule, maybe change the workouts that I'm doing? So what have you kind of done recently in terms of maybe like work or otherwise to shift your schedule, or like just make that time a bit easier now that you know the reasons for like your body having a hard time during your luteal phase?
Yeah. Okay. I'm really glad you brought this up, because I feel like once I've got this self-awareness, like around, okay, I'm in my luteal phase, which also I really like the fact that you've brought up that, yes, so we've trivialized women being cranky during their periods, but something else that I've learned is that the week that I'm actually bleeding isn't the only week that you're suffering. It's actually the like 7 to 10 days before, which is your luteal phase. Mm-hmm. That's something I didn't really realize until, like you say, I've picked up on these symptoms and linked them to my luteal phase. But something I've done in the last few months is actually, so if you've got an iPhone and you go into your health app, you can actually track your cycle on here. So I track my cycle using my iPhone's health app. If you use other apps, that's totally fine. I just use the iPhone health app. And if you go on like your predicted period day and then subtract like 7 to 10 days from that day, and then go into your calendar app, so whatever calendar you use, and then put in an all-day event from that 7 to 10 days before you're due on your period to you being due on your period. And I've labeled it as like PMS, don't make plans or have big to-do lists, and get that to repeat every month. So now every month I can, because I look at my calendar app daily, multiple times a day. So it's a good place for me to have this reminder. But if you obviously have your reminders in like a written notepad or something else, you can like actually just put this in recurring every month. But for me, it's like a classic case of like, loads of women can relate to this. I know I get my period every month. I know what symptoms I now get, like in the gym, at work, productivity, mental health. Yet every single month I forget that it's happening to me. So having it in the calendar for me this month it was life-saving, because last month I don't think I had it in my calendar, or it was like I'd got the wrong date. And the week before my period, I gave myself so many things to do. And like I had a trip, I was traveling, I was like, my to-do lists were monstrous, and I felt like total crap the entire week because I wasn't getting through this list. I was exhausted from doing like very minor things in the household on top of traveling. And then my period arrived and I was like, why did I do this to myself? Like I should have just told myself, like I could have easily done the stuff that was on my to-do list 2 weeks prior, so that I was making space to just be in my luteal phase and suffer in peace. And I know suffering in peace is probably like a bit of a like what's the sentence, like
juxtaposition?
Yeah, juxtaposition. But that's what your luteal phase is. But that has really, really helped me in terms of like calendarizing it and actually telling myself what to do during that time. So it's like, fair enough, put in luteal phase in your calendar, but on top of that I have, so don't make a big to-do list, don't make plans to travel. My workouts changed slightly in the sense that so I have a coach this year, and what I'll just message her, and so far it's been quite natural because I will pick up on what workouts I'm doing when my luteal phase falls, and I will just not be pushing for like for personal bests with weight training. I won't be pushing to set any kind of record for myself. I'm just going to try and get through the rep ranges, get through the workout as best as I can, push myself, but not like exhaust myself. And also with cardio, I take that down like 10 notches. I will only do like walking, stretching. I do a bit more yoga. I incorporate more like mindfulness into my fitness habits. So like if I'm walking, I'm not going to be listening to my gym playlist with like techno and R&B on it. I'm going to be listening to like nice podcasts. I'm going to be listening to just more soothing things. I'm not going to be trying to like overstimulate myself like I would be in maybe if I was my the phases where I'm not suffering, which I don't even know the names of because I don't have
matter.
to.
Yeah,
They don't matter. So those are a few of the things that I do. And just taking like the last week, I know I'm angry today for no reason, but like the last week I've purposefully left, like I'm avoiding calls. I'm avoiding giving myself big to-do lists. I'm giving myself like one task a day. I'm trying to really focus on like not beating myself up in my head over like being lazy or unproductive. And I'm trying to like really focus on like treating myself with grace, because I don't do that. I haven't done that historically during luteal phases. But yeah, that's what I do. What about you? What are your kind of like changes in habits for your luteal phase?
Yeah, so I feel like quite similar, although I feel like you are so much more organized than me, because I love that you actually have that event in your calendar where you specifically will tell yourself not to book anything in. I feel like I kind of make a mental note of these things a lot of the time. It's like I rely on just like really checking in with my emotions like regularly, and like say I'm feeling a certain type of way, I'll actually like double check with myself, okay, well, am I in that phase? Is that why I'm reacting so much, or is this an actual problem? Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I catch myself a lot in that phase just getting triggered, like I mentioned already, like the anger is a big one for me. But that almost like ruins everything. Like it's so hard to function in a day when you're so consumed by your emotions in that way. So I feel like for me, it's so much more of like an emotional thing where like even if I've got work and stuff to do, like the one thing I do is to completely avoid like social stuff, just because even my social battery is like non-existent at that point. I'm so yeah, it's just not a good time for me to be around people because I just don't have the energy for it, and there's just too much going on for me to like, it's just I'm not in a good place anyway, so it just wouldn't make sense. So I would make sure that I'm just making plans another time. But even that is so hard because like you said, the luteal phase lasts for a good like 7 to 10, sometimes even 14 days. That's half of your month. How are you not planning anything or like doing any proper work? Or do you know what I mean, like for those whole half of the month,
It's half the month, yeah.
yeah. So the thought of like cutting down on work tasks or like social stuff or like seeing your friends or like being in a good mood in general to like get on with life for a whole half of the month is so, it gets so daunting and feels so difficult to keep up with sometimes. But I think that's why I've tried to avoid telling myself, okay, I'm not going to do for this period of time. I've not really told myself, okay, I'm not going to do any of that entirely. I've just tried to like do that whole checking in with myself a lot more and just try and like regulate my emotions myself so that I can still kind of get on with stuff when I need to. And when I have those like triggers or those emotions like get control over me, I kind of try to teach myself to like know how to rein it back in and know how to like not let that ruin my day, and to make sure that even if I do have those times where like it's getting a hold of me, I know how to snap myself out of it. And it can be hard sometimes, it just really depends, but that's kind of what I focus on just because of like how intensely it affects me. And it's kind of impossible for me to kind of like turn down plans or cut myself off to the world for that whole 2 weeks, because like we've all got stuff to do, and like even if you're like working like a corporate job and you can't sign yourself off for 2 weeks of the month every single month. Can you imagine? That's not even part-time. That's like virtually no time at work. So it's really tricky because you want to do that and you kind of want to be your best self in front of other people. You don't really want to. I feel like when you start realizing all these things, my automatic response was, okay, I'm just gonna like not see anyone or not do anything during that time, and I'm just gonna hibernate, and then I'm gonna come back out when I'm feeling good. But then I slowly started to realize actually that isn't gonna serve. That's like I'm not gonna get anywhere by doing that because it's too much time out, and it's just gonna hold me back more than anything. So, but I what I will take away from what you said though is definitely actually have that notice of like, okay, it's starting now, so actually have that notification to go, now is the time to kind of start winding down a little bit and actually, pick and choose things a bit more, because again, like I said, I haven't really done that. I've just kind of made a mental note of, okay, when I start to feel these things, then I need to like,
you remember,
just like mentally start.
Yeah. And I think
that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And like, it's good that you said that, because that's kind of important to acknowledge in terms of like, I know I've just gone through loads of little things that I do, but it's all about what you can control. Like what you said at the beginning of the episode, we've got the awareness, so now we can control. So like, what elements of life can we control now? It's just that once that event is in my diary and I know my luteal phase is starting this week, and like things start to come up, like people want to see me, or like trips start coming up, or there's travel plans being made. If I have the option to say, oh, let's not do this week, let's do next week, that's when I can like, that's how you can use that notification in your diary. It's all about like creating that flexibility for yourself. It's not like that notification's come, my to-do list is 0, I'm chilling in bed. That's not that's not what I mean. Yeah, it's more like and honestly, if you do work a corporate job as well, and like what I did with my corporate job was just acknowledge that, okay, on the like for these 2 weeks, maybe I'm not going to pressure myself to do office days, or maybe I'm not going to pressure myself to go to the gym before work or after, or even after work, or at all. Like maybe I'll just swap the gym out for a walk in the evening. It's all about like just accommodating the fact that you are in this phase and making the swaps where you can. And also like, I do want to acknowledge that I think you have two options. You can either ignore the fact that you're in your luteal phase, get those like monstrous to-do lists, get through them, hate yourself a little bit in the evening, suffer for 2 weeks if it's 14 days, and then just do that every month. Or you can just be a bit slower, like communicate to people maybe you're in your luteal phase, or maybe just communicate to people that, like you're struggling a little bit for a few days. Take on a little bit less, but for the 40% that you're giving during your luteal phase, you'll be giving that 60% when you're not in your luteal phase. So it does balance out. And like, I think if you embrace not suffering, if you
just suffer,
if you embrace the fact that like you have to take it slow in order to be able to take it faster after, you'll overall just be a little bit happier and more balanced, rather than trying to like conform to just not doing that, basically. In the same way that like when I'm in my luteal phase, I'm not giving up the gym, I'm not giving up being active, even though I really don't want to, and like everything in me just does not want to do anything good for myself. I'm gonna do it because it means that I'm still taking care of myself, and it means that I can like show up as my best self despite being in my like luteal phase and stuff. So that's why I think it's good to like, okay, acknowledge you're in it, make the adjustments, the swaps, whatever you need to make in order to still get on with life, because we all have to do that. But it's all for greater good. Like it's all so that you can end the week feeling good about yourself and not beating yourself up, so that you can come back stronger once the next phase starts as well.
So basically what you described, I think, was burnout, as in like you keeping go to the point where like your body can't deal with it. And what I've noticed is that I've only ever really heard women talk about experiencing burnout to like the degree where they literally like have to completely stop and then start again. I've not really experienced or heard many men talk about their experiences with burnout, and I'm just wondering, is it, I don't know if it's just because I've not heard men and they do, but I'm wondering if women seem to experience it more because they're not really acknowledging their luteal phase, and because they're continuing to push themselves in the time where their body physically needs that rest. They keep going, and then they crash and burn afterwards anyway, because their body's not had that chance to, you know, take that chill pill. So I'm just thinking, like, because over the years I've heard, especially women in business, so many have like told their experiences about burning out. And you know, like, obviously when you are running a business as well, it's hard to just switch off and like, or take a step back, even if you're the founder or the CEO, or you've got these big like positions and this role to fulfill. So I almost feel like in positions like that, it's probably doubly hard to acknowledge that your body needs that time. But because you're not, and because it really needs it, that's when the burnout then happens.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's like, it is, because if you're a woman in business, you're more likely to burn out because of the fact that you require different, you need more rest, you need a slower period of growth sometimes. And if you burn out constantly, that's not good for business. Like, it's not good for your business at all. And that applies across the board, across genders, across like business types. And if you're doing things to avoid burnout that simultaneously maybe come with slower growth, isn't that better? Like, overall, like, the big picture is that your business does better, you do better. There's no, it's like consistent growth, even though it's slower and maybe isn't like shooting up like this. Why do we have to risk the burnout, actually destroy ourselves, actually even lose our periods, just for the business to grow twice as fast? What does twice as fast get you in comparison to just being okay but growing slower? Like, that's what I don't understand about this chase for growth and the speed of growth in business at the cost of like your actual health.
Yeah, I almost feel like it is a little bit like, because when you are a woman in business, you almost feel like the competition of like how men grow, and like they every 24 hours they are just on full form, like they've had their rest and they're ready to go. And our bodies don't work that way. But when you are in, I guess traditionally business was a man's world, so when women try and come into a world like that, and then men's businesses are growing, or just in that space in general, and they're, you know, having this exponential growth, and they manage to like keep on top of that, then I guess when a woman comes into that world, they almost feel like that is the only way to operate, and that's how they have to be to, you know, be of value in that space, and to make sure that they, I don't know, are keeping up with their peers or the competition out there and things like that. So I feel like you automatically get trapped into that cycle of, okay, work, hustle, and don't take a step back or don't take a break, because if you do, then you're going to lose out, and then everyone else is going to get ahead of you, and you're going to be seen as weak because you can't keep up the pace of everyone around you, aka men. So I feel like it's so important to have conversations like this to realize, because I don't think a lot of women actually realize that our bodies are so biologically different to men. I feel like we don't actually deep that enough.
We don't.
Like, especially when we talk about these like whole men's responsibilities, women's responsibilities, and like relationships and all these dynamics and things that we all have these different opinions on. The fact of the matter is we are so biologically different. Like, there's a reason for that. And when we enter the same spaces, we have to deal with that differently as well to match the like who you are and your biology. But because those aren't really conversations that we have, and nobody really looks into the science of like, okay, a woman in business does look different to a man in business, but that's not negative. That doesn't mean that she's bad at business, and it doesn't mean in any other, I don't know, female dominated area, if a man was to do things differently, it doesn't mean that he's bad at it. It just means that they have to do it differently because they're wired differently. And I think that's the point that we miss so much, is that we're so different. We're going to do things in a different way, even if we're going for the same thing. But that's fine. But I feel like there's a negative spin on it always, as if you're not like the next person, if you're not doing it the same way they're doing it. Different is always seen as wrong for some reason.
Yeah, that's literally exactly it. It's not, I feel like it's not that we're missing it or we're not picking up on it. It's that we perceive that difference to be something that's wrong or not normal or weak. And like, that's the problem. That's where the problem lies. But yeah, it's difficult to like, it's difficult to not, I guess it's easy to have the conversation, but it's difficult to actually get that change in behavior normalized.
That's the thing, like on a general scale of like people just automatically operating that way, it's so hard to shift that mindset. Okay, so that was a really interesting conversation. I feel like it's so important for us women to talk more about these things, like what we go through, because it is unique to us at the end of the day. And I think if we don't talk about it, and I know for experience the amount of years that it took me to kind of understand and realize it about my own body, I feel like hopefully we have opened some young girls' eyes. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, why am I reacting to things in this way at certain points in time? Hopefully this has given you a bit of understanding of why that could be, and the things that you could do to kind of help yourself in those times. If you guys did enjoy the episode, please do give it a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Give us some feedback and a rating over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts if you're listening over there. And with that being said, we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.